Welcome to my channel. And finally it's time for the Creative Heaven books. But actually in this part will be only books by T.Goodridge because other books from Creative Heaven series I have already demonstrated you in the video about Marty Noble's book and about Ruth Sofer. I have mostly books by Goodrich in this series and Marty Noble. I decided to start from Home Sweet Home. It's a nice book and I like it mostly because we have a variety of interiors, so you can select something new each time and you never will be bored. Here I don't have many finished pictures, but I have one of them which I absolutely love. It wasn't the easiest for me to color, some of the elements here were challenging, but from the beginning I did love the cozy look of the kitchen, that they started to bake something and already one cake is ready. Very nice picture. But I wasn't sure how to color the tablecloth, the color probably well, it was difficult to select which color to do and do I need to add some ornament on it. But many other elements I really enjoyed to color, especially this blender, metal part, plastic parts. The most challenging was how to do this glass plate, and I really tried to show all the reflections in the glass surface. So it was interesting. It has many things to think about, how to color oil and milk. So I really enjoyed the process. I actually want to color almost each page here, so definitely it will be more colorings from this book in the next year. Another one which I did, and you can see a video for this page on my channel, it's this music room. I don't know why I selected this one. Probably it was interesting for me to color this very shiny glossy surface of the black wood here. And also I tried to work on the wooden textures both on the floor, on the here, on the wall, on the shelves. So it's nothing special, but still it was interesting to do it. This one I absolutely love. I did it during the fall season when we also had heavy rains, so it was quite in the atmosphere of the day when I did this page. You can see that on the original page it was probably sunny day, but I decided to turn it into fall day, so leaves are in warm yellow, orange and green colors. Grass also started to be more yellowish. I think that cookies also are quite yummy. In the beginning I didn't like again color of the tablecloth comparing to the color of the wall, but now I think that it really created a very good contrast to the very light china, to the caps here. So now I'm happy how I did this checkered tablecloth, but first I wasn't that sure. I do love to color all baked things, to practice how to cover them with chocolate, how to combine Prismacolor pencils for various colors for them, of the cookies, of the gingerbread. So I always try to select pictures where we have something baked. I love to color such things. Well, and I think that it's all for this book. Next, let's start to move through the seasons. Here we have the spring scenes. Again, probably I will start from the end. It's easier for me to flip. Almost everything in this book I did with Prismacolors. I think that 90% of all the pictures in Creative Heaven T.Goodridge books I do with Prismacolors, and if I have enough patience, I also try to use Posca pens, especially on the flowers, on the leaves, to delete black lines. But sometimes I experiment with watercolor with other brands. But here everything is very traditional, just Prismacolors. I always struggle to color daffodils. They always look, here they look not very realistic, and I also color them in very simple way. I never can learn how to color them properly. This one I love because in the beginning when I just got the book I absolutely wasn't interested in this one, but then I looked at it the second time and I decided that it actually can be a very good picture. The only thing I was concerned a little bit is the big area of the sky. When I decided to color it with this more maybe it's evening time, maybe it's fantasy colors. So instead of the plain blue, I decided to experiment with several colors. And after I liked the sky, everything else I colored quite easy. I wanted to create a good contrast between all those buildings, the business architecture and flowers which we have here. So I did very typical red tulips, and here probably they are my best tulips. I also struggle with tulips since they have usually quite shiny petals, so you need to show that they have shape and they also have highlights on the surface of the petal, and here I think that I managed to do it. I added a little bit of shading between petals, so it was a page which surprised me and it was surprisingly easy to color it in the end. Of course, when I did this one, I was inspired by Dutch landscapes and I wanted to do as many colorful tulips as possible. Here we have very pleasant sunny day. I do love how textures on my windmill look, both here on the brown bricks and on the grey bricks, matching the walking the path here. I also decided to add a little bit of colors here on the area behind the windmill because I was concerned that all colors we have only on the foreground, so I decided to add some flowers far from us. And of course I enjoyed combining those colors, trying to think how I would grow tulips in my own garden. So again, it was a nice page to do. I also added flowers here to do trees in bloom. Just tiny dots with white and pink, but they also help to make more spring impression. Next one is this cafe, and it was inspired by the real cafe in Paris. They have beautiful glycinia trees, and when they are in bloom it's absolutely magnificent view. So I decided to use some colors from the real cafe, especially all those turquoise blue doors and window frames, and some colors I added from myself. I do love how I did the background, this gradient with very light pastel colors, starting from pale green and going into pale blue. It helps to create a little bit of a romantic atmosphere probably. So this one also is one of my best pictures in this book. You can see that I used a lot of Posca because on the glycinia black lines they were terribly thick, so definitely not matching the tender look of these flowers, and I tried to mask them to cover them with Posca. Well, for this one I had huge plans. I wanted to color it, of course, but I also wanted to add a little bit of water here. I think that probably it was supposed to be part of the Dutch famous Keukenhof garden with tulips, but I decided that I also want to do a small channel probably here, so a little bit of water, but I didn't know how properly to show all those reflections in the surface of the water. I tried to make reflection from the tree trunk of the nearest trees here, but it doesn't look like water, so I need to practice more. Everything else is not bad. I added more flowers here because initially it has only few leaves and flowers, and I do love again the texture on the building. Here probably my most favorite thing is how yellow tulips looks together with all those purple pink. Another very busy page. Here I simply tried to add a little bit of tiny flowers around those which already were available on the page to make the whole composition more alive, probably more realistic. So sometimes we have only big flowers and we don't have any buds or semi-closed flowers. So in such things I try to add additional leaves, additional tiny flowers, again with Posca, and I think that it helps to improve pictures a little bit. It was one of my very old works here when I just started to color in the books by T.Goodridge, and I always repeat that for this page I would change now the color of the garden house. So instead of the green for the window frames here, I would probably use blue. It would stand better. Now it's also surrounded by green, so it's slightly lost. But it's not a tragedy, it didn't mess up the whole page because we have many interesting things here, and I really enjoyed coloring this group of flowers and everything we have inside of the card, so I still like it. I don't know, this one I remember I started just because I wanted to color the watering can. I have a soft spot for watering cans, and if we have pictures with them, I always color them in the first row. Again, I tried to do different wooden textures. This time the wood is more reddish comparing to the regular wood which I usually do for my books, so it's also helped to make good contrast for all beautiful primula flowers probably. And it was a challenge for me what exactly we have here. Maybe smaller bulbs, maybe we have different variety in smaller size. But anyway, apart from the daffodils which look absolutely childish, everything else isn't that bad. And honestly, I would prefer not to have all those butterflies and birds which usually we have on T.Goodridge page. They don't match the realistic look of pictures. Sometimes I mask them, sometimes I have to color them, especially when they are big, but they are definitely not my favorite part of her pictures. This one, it was a pleasure to do because you can do small designs and they all about spring, and you never again will be bored because in very short time you can do nice adorable pictures. I love them. I especially love this one, probably very colorful. I tried to use matching colors. You can see that I repeated red and red, blue and blue, so the whole page will look like a composition, not just not like 7 individual pictures, but a parts of a whole. The next one I did first with watercolor, but just covering the big green area of the grass with green, and then I worked with Prismacolors. I also have a big soft spot for the red barns. You can see them on my pictures very frequently, and that's one of such pictures. Again, I struggled with daffodils. I tried to do both varieties, yellow and white, and all of them look a little bit funny, but still they look quite nice around the animal. And when you color them, you definitely start to feel spring vibe because daffodils are one of the most beautiful flowers during the springtime. I love them. They are so tender and elegant. Here I have a less successful attempt to color tulips, but still they are not bad. Probably I would prefer to have something apart from these pink flowers or maybe smaller flowers around. But the composition here is good and I enjoyed doing this row of flowers. I think that I wasn't very good with perspective here with green colors which I selected for the tree, for the leaves, for the trees, but it's part of my learning path. So, in picture which I love, even if I hoped that my trees they would be better, I tried to add more contrast there to work on the texture. I tried to add texture on top of Prismacolors with Inktense, not very successfully, so in the end I added again pink flowers to make them a little bit less boring. But everything here is so yummy, apart from the watermelon. I absolutely don't know how to color them, so don't look here, look at the other yummy things. I do love this baked goods, and I think that wine also looks quite nice. Grape also isn't that bad. So apart from the watermelon, everything else looks quite good, and I'm happy that I decided to do it because I was afraid in the beginning how to do all those textures, all those folds on the fabric. But now I think that it's not bad picture. Next season will be autumn because I don't have summer book. Somehow I didn't like pictures in it, so instead of summer I usually use garden book. But we will look at it a little bit later. In the autumn scenes, sometimes I do normal landscapes like this one, sometimes I do Halloween pictures. This one I did this year with Prismacolors and I love it. I wanted to do this very tender color of the sky, doing gradient from pink, peach to more lavender and only then blue color. I think that we can see such sky during the very early morning if the day during the autumn is clear, and I wanted to show it. I used a lot of various yellow, beige, olive green colors for the grass, for the leaves, so I think that I managed to do exactly what I imagined, and most of all I am happy that even if deers they have similar colors, again a lot of orange brown, but they still stands against the background nicely, they are not lost, so this page I love. Here I colored several pictures in this book in raw, and I experimented with various colors of the sky, so I did one daylight picture, one nighttime picture. I experimented with various colors of the roofs and walls, so this time we have nighttime, and it gave me this option to do very warm light inside of the house. I do love this effect. Even we can see this light even on the stairs here. I do love this effect. It attracts when we have inside of the house a warm light. The most challenging part, of course, was how to color this huge mass of straw. And first I did a little bit of color with Prismacolors, and then I added Posca and acrylic paint because black lines they were excessive, and when I masked some parts of the black lines, the cat and all the fruits and vegetables inside, they started to be much more visible, and I do love that I selected a red color, even if more muted red for the card. Probably this faded turquoise blue is one of my favorite colors when I need to color old buildings, when I have opportunity to do old window frames with this faded blue, which already started to be more yellowish, a little bit more dirty, probably from the rain. So I do love to do this faded blue, to use it. Here I didn't like these leaves and I didn't know how to improve them. I would prefer to have them in slightly more accurate way, more realistic looking, but I do love these flowers which for me look like chrysanthemum, very traditional flower for the autumn time, so that's why I decided to colors them. And of course my favorite color combo of orange and violet. It always looks nice, so of course I had to use it here. Next one I did with Inktense. I have this video on my channel. Here I am extremely happy how I did the lantern, but all pumpkins, they were quite good, and all the leaves, it was interesting to do. So Inktense proved to be very helpful here. Another red barn. You can see that I colored almost all my barns in such color combo. I always think that simple brown is too boring, so red helps to make the background a little bit more interesting. Again, almost everything already is yellow here. I did almost completely yellow trees. I wanted to attract all the attention to the vegetables inside the cart. Here I just played with my Inktense, nothing special about this one. I didn't like the page from the beginning. More realistic looking landscape in the central part, frame around is more simplified. So they are slightly in different styles, and first I didn't want to color it at all, but then I felt like my Inktense skills, they are absolutely rusty. I needed to practice somewhere, and I practiced on this frame. And then with regular pencils I did the central part. Here I remember that I used Inktense pencils for the background, Prismacolors for the cardinal board and for some of the elements. And then for the rest I also used some Derwent drawing pencils with their warm colors. They were quite helpful here. So usually I don't blend many sets for one page, but here I combined several media, and I think that it was worth because I do love this press. Here again I think that I used even alcohol markers, probably, no, Inktense and regular pencils probably. It's an old work. I can't say that the pumpkin it's perfect. Maybe I had to do more contrast details, but it's in the spirit of Halloween, and I do love how I did trick or treat with color gradient, matching colors here. So this one I absolutely love because I remember how long and how carefully I worked on all the areas here, starting from the hills which are far from us and moving forward to the area in front of us. I need to select Prismacolor pencils, and not just one but several pencils for each of the areas to make this green landscape to be less boring, that I wanted to have various shades of green, and I think that I managed to do it. It's still in my list of best works. Here I again tried to mask some of the black lines on the pumpkins with Poscam. They still look a little bit flat, but I think that most important thing is that pumpkin which serves as a head, it looks quite nice. Squirrel isn't my favorite part here, but all other things, they are not bad. Here I have my Halloween page. It was very fun to do it. I decided to use as a like small bright color this very intense green. I usually don't use such shade of green, but here I used it around the cat to show that it's a witch's cat, and the similar color is inside of the building, so I think that it also helped to create some interesting atmosphere. Next one I did simply to try how regular watercolor works on this paper, and of course after drying they look much more dull, less bright, but still with a moderate amount of water and with waiting time between first and second layer, it's totally possible to color on this paper with watercolor. you can see that even if they're bleeded through a little bit, not too much. And for the one-sided book, it's not important. Well, I think that it's all for the autumn book. And as I said, as my summer book, I prefer to use Country Gardens. Here, this year, I did this romantic evening picture. And first I selected it because I really love this flower bush. But in the end, most of all, I enjoyed doing this huge stove, probably, or fireplace. I really tried to calculate where I need to put all the highlights and reflections from this lantern, from the fire inside of the fireplace. So I hope that it looks not that bad. I do love to do evening pictures in Teresa Goodridge books because it allows me to play more with highlights, with light reflections. They usually look a little bit more interesting comparing to the daytime pictures. And to create good contrast to all the yellow, orange flower colors which I used in the middle, I did this rose bush. Well, maybe now when I think that maybe I had to mask more of the black lines here on the stones. I am not a big fan of such stones. They are in the same shape but in different size. Sometimes it's better to outline them with beige Posca or with acrylic paint, but here I think that it still didn't mess up with the final look of the page. This one I selected simply because I wanted to color all the flowers which we have here along the path to the entrance to the door. I think that most of all I enjoyed doing this hydrangea flowers probably. For the rest, I'm not sure what exactly they are, but you can see that again I did everything very colorful. Even leaves are made in different color palettes. And the red which I selected for the door also helps to attract attention to the building. This one I did, I think that last year for my birthday, like birthday party. Many yummy things here, and I do love sunflowers. Another picnic page, but this one I did later comparing to that one which I did in spring scenes, and I like it a little bit more. Maybe because here the original drawing I like more, even if we have lesser amount of edible things, but I do love the teapot which serves as a vase for the flowers, and I do love the basket here. It was interesting to do the tableware, leather stripes, texture of the basket, so I think that it's a little bit better comparing to the picnic in the spring book. This one I also love, and here Posca probably was the main hero because with Posca I added many tiny details. For example, here we have simple bushes, some plants, I don't know, but with Posca I tried to convert them into a red currant, so I added those dots and for me they look like a red currant. I also tried to improve some shapes of the flowers here and here. So if you love to color in Teresa Goodridge books, I highly recommend Prismacolor and Posca pens. Best color combo for me. Another one which I did this spring when we were almost ready for the gardening season, and I decided that I want to color the shovel. I do love to color still, and it was a good practice for me. Here I have smaller and bigger one. Again, daffodils, they are not perfect, but the rest of the flowers I do love. When I got the book, this page immediately caught my attention, and I knew that I want to do this beautiful rose arch, and I wanted to practice how to color roses in various colors. I do love this more tender variety of peach with a little bit of yellow, but also this more passionate color with Bordeaux, dark red. So that's why I colored it in such way. And I think that here we have some kind of the pansies, and that's why I selected such colors for them. Somehow I can't color in this book during winter season. I am more like seasonal colorist, but from the spring until the autumn time, I do love to color here from time to time when I feel in need of coloring flowers. Finally, I have Winter Wonderland. And before this year I got my Christmas charm, Enchanted Christmas, I colored a lot in this Winter Wonderland. It's probably more useful during the whole winter season because apart from traditional Christmas pictures we also have simple winter landscapes, and that I appreciate. I hope that during January and February I will be able to find here some pictures to color without signs of Christmas. Like this one probably. Even if here we have a lot of black lines, but I already started to get used to that. Half of them I will cover with white gouache and it will turn into a perfect winter picture. Here I have the train, and it was fun to color train and also all the smoke around the train here on top and here around the wheels. The only thing I messed up a little bit, I wasn't able to cover smoothly the whole area of the sky with pencils. I don't know why I didn't blend them very successfully. But apart from this, I do love contrast between cold colors of the snow on the sky with the warm color which I selected for the building here. So the station building probably, and all the people. Usually I don't like to color people in T.Goodridge designs, but here they really matched the atmosphere of the station, so I didn't mind. This one I selected again because I wanted to practice more how to do shadows on the snow, highlights on the snow, and that wasn't that bad because we have highlights, some reflection of the sunlight, and shadows, they are not bad. But the water, I don't think that I managed to catch the look of the frozen waterfall. I need to practice more here. And the trees, also, maybe I selected the wrong shade of green, they are slightly lost. This one I absolutely love. I love everything here, how it looks, how I did it, I enjoyed it, and it's still one of my favorite finished pictures. Maybe now, if I look closely, I would think that maybe I need to mask something, but still, I was very proud when I finished it. I was very happy. I know that many people also liked it and enjoyed coloring it together with me. So, of course, it's one of my best works, and I am quite proud that I managed to do it. It was one of my first works here, and again I tried to do some daylight picture and nighttime picture. Here I imagine that maybe they were visiting grandma, grandpa, and now they are returning home. I added some Christmas garlands like lights around the entrance, around the window here to make house a little bit more festive. And of course I practiced how to do evening shadows on the snow. It was interesting. Even the horse here isn't that bad. I decided that I won't be doing any texture. I will concentrate only on the highlighted and shadow parts of the body. And of course, when I color all the pictures in this book, I use huge amount of white paint. For me, it's the same to use acrylic paint or gouache paint. I usually use them in titanium white color. They are both opaque, so what I have, I use it. But without such paints, I don't think that it's possible to do realistic snow. First, I do colors shading with Prisma, and then I start to delete all the black lines and to add texture of the falling snow using white paint. It's another one which I almost love. I think that I already repeated it 1,000 times, that here, apart from the color of the walls, which looks like part of the hill behind, everything else I do love, especially the snow. It's not a snowman, it's Snow Lady. She's definitely very fashionable lady snowman. And I do love how I did here the Christmas tree balls. I was very tired of traditional yellow or red colors, so here I have magenta, purple and orange. And I think that they also look quite nice. This one I did during winter season after Christmas, so I was in search of winter pictures but without Christmas trees or Santas, and here I used a lot of white paint, you can see. Nothing else I can't say about this one. I tried to color this one, getting inspiration from the paintings by Thomas Kincaid. You know that he used a lot of violet, lavender, lilac colors, pink colors, and of course a lot of warm light coming inside of the building, and that's exactly what I tried to copy. That's why I have sky in such color, that's why I have such violet shadows on the snow, and I really tried to show all the reflections here on the snow and on the ice. For this page, I remember that I tried to combine Prismacolors and gouache. Not all the details here were perfect. I struggled again with the surface of the water, but I think that in the end, the whole composition looks good. I do love again the color of the sky. Christmas, this pine trees covered by snow, well, they look a little bit strange, but as a part of the background, they are not bad. If they would be somewhere here, it would be a disaster. But in such way, they at least don't distract attention from the deers. For this one, I experimented with watercolor again, and I did first layer on the bricks, on the wall, maybe even on the snow with watercolor, and then I worked with Prismacolors. And I do love that it has a lot of falling snow. It helps to create this very nice, very sweet atmosphere. Well, that's all for the Winter Wonderland. Next one will be Country Charm, still probably my favorite book by Teresa, but of course I am patiently waiting for her next books, which I think that they will be absolutely beautiful, and I do love the theme of the new books, so I hope that the new year will be year of many happy colorings in Teresa Goodridge books. Here I experimented with Derwent color softs, and what can I say? I do love this page, but and it's possible to color with color softs, but in the time which I used to do this page, and the effect which I had on my hand and arm when I finished to blend them, to cover them, to cover paper with color softs, I would manage to do 2 pictures here with Prismacolors. So apart from some experiments, I definitely intend to stay with my favorite pair of Prismas and Posca pens. Paper, it can be used with other brands, but still, for me, for Goodrich landscapes, Prismas are still the best choice. Here I have this antique shop, and again I did it mostly because I wanted to color hydrangea flowers. Next I decided to turn into romantic evening atmosphere. Again I worked on the highlights from the candle as the first source of the light, and second source of the light is somewhere inside of the house. So we have highlights on the window frame and here on the bench. I never know how to do dogs in Teresa Goodrich pictures. They always look the same, and I think that I did all the varieties of them: black, ginger, grey. So I need some inspiration how to do dogs on my next pictures. This one I turned into spring design. I decided that bunnies, they can be a sign of the spring, and I did it, I think that this year. Again, I tried to combine darker and lighter shades of green to show some shadows and highlights on the grass. If you love to color in Goodrich books, it's important to have very good selection of greens. And probably the most creative part here, how I did the roof. I really want to do this one, and I always think about it when I select my next project, but somehow I always think, well, a little bit later, a little bit later. This one I did last fall season, that's why I used a lot of more yellowish green colors for the grass. I wanted to show that we are in the beginning of the fall season. Well, again, it was a big work on the various color combos of green. This one definitely isn't my favorite page because we have this strange difference in size. Like daffodils are almost in the same size as a watering can. Other huge flowers. I prefer something to be everything to be more in real proportions, to be more realistic. And I think that here I again used watercolor first and then Prismacolors. Oh, this one I struggled a lot with it, and not on the train or on the steam here. I remember that as the lower part I colored quite quickly, but here I decided to do this impression of the rays of light coming through the trees, through the leaves of the trees, and I didn't know how to do it. In the end, after several attempts, I think that I finally managed to create something close to what I wanted to do. At least top parts of the trees are highlighted by the last rays of light. So it was interesting but challenging coloring. This one I did only because I wanted to color flowers, but it turned that here I managed to do quite nice texture of the leaves. Usually all my trees in Teresa Goodridge books, they have a very flat foliage. So trees, they look flat. I never do enough contrast between highlighted and shadow parts on the tree. And here I finally managed to do quite nice mess of the leaves, and the upper part here I absolutely love. It's also one of the recent works. What can I say? It's not bad. I think that definitely I need to learn somehow how to do water with watercolors because it doesn't have enough highlights on the surface. But I tried. Honestly I tried to show all the reflections in the surface of the water from all the objects and from the things around. In the end, I decided to put on the girls this very bright red coat, and of course it helped a lot to attract attention to the girl. I wasn't sure about blue color for the boards here, maybe both in more green boards would be better, but still it was interesting, and I think that I managed to catch the atmosphere of the warm autumn day. Many people are walking here, so probably they are having a very good time. This one looks very simple, and of course first I selected it because I wanted to do a watering can. Then I was really interested in the objects standing on the old table. I decided to make them like they are made from various things. The central one I decided to color as a steel element, so it has a very shiny surface, and of course apart from the good shadows and highlights on the metal surface, I had to show reflections on the objects which are closest to the steel element. Then this one I tried to color like terracotta, and the last one I think that it's an old china teapot, and in the white surface of china of course we have reflections on the bright colors around. So it was interesting to color. I had to think about many things. Again, you can see my favorite faded blue color for the fence behind. I even managed to do quite decent shading on this checkered tablecloth. Honestly, it's always a nightmare for me when I need to color something with checkers and when I need to show shadows on them, all those folds on the fabric, but here I think that I managed to do it. So this one I definitely consider as a big success. This one I did when I was in the end of the winter, and I so much wanted already to start grow some flowers on my balcony, to start the gardening season, so I selected pictures accordingly. We have spring pictures, we have many things which are necessary for the gardener, so of course it was quite a big pleasure to color. Here I have my cozy kitchen. Well, I still don't know why I selected such a strange color for the here for the chest of drawers, but apart from this anything else isn't bad. I immediately wanted to do the variety of the tableware with blue color, so I had to use blue in several areas to support it. It was quite fun to color all things here. Well, maybe I had to work a little bit more on the bricks. They have all the same, and of course old bricks, they have more weathered look. They have to have maybe more color accents. So here wasn't my best work on the texture of the bricks, but I do love everything which we have here, all those frying pans. So at least this part I do love. Still, it's my favorite book because it has the biggest variety of subjects on the pictures, and even you can find picture for each of the seasons. You have landscapes, you have interior design. But I also love Main Street. Very slowly, but I try to add one picture, maybe at least couple of months. And what I have now, I have this view of the street, and here in this book I also enjoy to do many evening pictures and to work on all the highlights on the pavement, on the street. And of course I love to invent various color combos for the buildings, for the walls, for the window frames. I always try to think if I would own an optical shop, which color I would use for the walls. If I would own a seafood restaurant, which color I would use to decorate it. And it's very helpful when you decide about the basic color for your future coloring. Here I surprised myself with this violet color, but I think that it actually worked nice. Of course I was thinking about tiny artisan shops somewhere in Provence with all their production of lavender and many products with lavender smell. So that's probably where I got this idea about violet for the door and for the window frame. Somehow I never enjoyed doing small things which we have inside of the window shops. I much more prefer to color the building, walls, pavement. It's strange, I know. Here I was so invested into doing flowers, so probably I turned the perfume shop into flower shop. Here flowers, they probably are much brighter and much more intense comparing to the very light bottles of perfumes. Again, I tried to add some additional tiny flowers around because initial ones they didn't look very attractive. Here we have very good, very nice roses. The next one, bakery, of course. When I got the book, I immediately wanted to practice on the various types of the bread. I hope that you can see that they are slightly different in color, so I combined various prismas. And on the lower shelf we have so many yummy cupcakes and other sweet things. It also was quite fun to invent colors for all of them. And this one I don't like. There is absolutely no difference between the inner part of the shop, which I wanted to do quite dark, and probably this wooden sign it's too dark also. If I would do it lighter it would be better. Also quite dark wooden things here. Anyway, I don't know what is bothering me here, but it's absolutely not the best work here. But at least I do love the bottle of wine, and I managed to practice quite good here how to do glass and how to do full bottles, semi-full bottles and bottles in various color of the glass. Again, here I think that we have an evening atmosphere, and as usual I used a lot of warm color inside of the shop. I think that in such way they look more attractive for the customers. I try always to be very careful, thinking where will be those reflections, where will be shadows. I think that here I mostly love these tiny trees. They are very sweet. Here I have this antique shop and I deliberately used a lot of dark colors. I think that dark is it's the atmosphere of the antique shop. Here it was fun to color all these objects. Again, I think that I used a lot of highlights on all the objects. I don't know what to say. Some of the pictures here are easier to do. Sometimes you really have to calculate all the details. But almost all of them I consider as my successes. Some of the buildings I did better, some are a little bit less successful, but I have so much fun each time when I look at each of the shops and I try to think about colors which I use for each of them. Here, of course, the ice cream was my point of attention, and if I would need to choose where to go, here or here, of course I would go to the ice cream. So I was particularly careful with coloring ice cream. I wanted to make it very attractive to the customers. Oh, this one, it's another part of my experimenting with color softs. And actually, it wasn't that bad, apart from the much longer time which I spent on it comparing to what I could achieve with Prismacolors. The only thing I don't like here is this canopy above the window. If I would do it only with the red color, all the stripes would be red, maybe with tiny white between them, it would be less childish and more realistic. Now it looks like a part of the, I don't know. It's stands too bright on this page. But at least I managed to use all those strange green colors which we have in the Colorsoft set. You know that in Colorsoft they don't have normal realistic greens, so to color the leaves it was a huge struggle, but at least for the wooden door here it was quite helpful. And finally I have the flower shop. Of course I wanted to color all those various flowers. Nothing special, but still good picture. I decided that if we have such a bright objects on the foreground, then maybe at least the background I will do in very moderate calm colors, so it's very light, very pastel with just a little bit of shading. I even didn't work very carefully on the texture on the door, just some lines and rings on the wood, because I wanted all the attention going here to the flowers. Well, I won't show you my recent works in Christmas books, because in a couple of days it will be time to make the video about my works which I colored in December, and then we will see how I started to color in Enchanted Christmas and Christmas Charm. Thank you for watching. I hope that I hadn't repeated myself many times, because of course I made similar reviews of Creative Heaven books quite often on my channel, but still it was a pleasure to look once more at all my finished works, and it also helped me to start making my plans for the next year.